Lottie Cootie, Marilyn Moore,
May I say something? Marilyn Moore will not be here because she lost her great-grandson.
Our condolences.
Henson Lena,
Here.
David Frank, Wayne Shaw,
Here.
Tiffany Thunder,
Here.
Catherine McCoy,
Here.
Charlie Hill,
Here.
Tommy Chupko, Danita Harjo, Willis Dethridge, Desiree Emerton. I have 21 present, 7 absent.
With a count of 21 present and 7 absent, I declare that we have established a quorum. We are now in session of this special called meeting of June 29, 2023. We have no reading of the minutes of the last meeting at this time, no unfinished business at this time, no reports of committees at this time as well. So we now are in new business. Just for clarification on the TR numbers, to be able to be substantially in the area of chronological order of tribal resolutions, we want you to take a look at what is considered TR 2000. Representative Shaw. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, great. If we stand, can stand if you can. We'll go to the Lord in prayer. I'll go ahead and offer the prayer this evening. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you, Lord, for this day that you've given to us, the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We thank you, Lord, that you give us another opportunity to walk upon this earth one more day, to breathe breath in our lungs. We pray for each and every one that is in our nation, abroad, in the military, those that are in need, that are in nursing homes, as well as those in the hospital. We pray for them as well. Lord, help us in this day and hour to make the wise decisions that need to be made for the advancement of the Seminole Nation, and forever we'll give you glory and we'll give you honor. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. You may be seated. Okay, we are now into new business, and for, yes, Representative Shaw.
I'd like to request that we have add other business at the bottom of this. Don't want to, I'll make that into a motion and ask for it.
I would think it would be for serious, of course.
Very serious, this nation, I think. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks like that, but it's a very serious nature. I don't wish to name names or anything right here on this floor because I want to go into executive session for some of this. But I'm going to ask that we extend our meeting past this right here. Got all kinds of seconds. Want to take a vote on it?
I think probably because we are in a special call meeting that it would take a special vote to go into other business of serious concern to the tribal council. That's what our statutes and laws say. As far as executive session, there was some questions on when we could and couldn't go into executive session according to Title 16. And so Representative Shaw has a motion to place other business. And what would that other business pertain to, at least the subject matter?
Our casinos, one. Our HPO office, another. Our Attorney General, another. There may be others that are here that know more about what they want to talk about. But this, like I said, I'm bringing that straight up. I'm not, now that's the subject matter. That's enough to get started with right there.
I think that's 3 subject matters, and I would probably say that, the casinos are of top concern. Probably not the Attorney General. You might need to address that and send it to us so we can place it on the agenda at the next meeting. And what was the other subject matter? The HP officer? We're not going to go into personnel at this time. Personnel, though it may be a
Sir, not up to you to make that decision. I presented it to you, and you could have said yes, and we went on. But now I think you need to call for the vote. If we're going to have a vote, you're only the chair. You're not the chief right now.
I'm doing a clarification of what's within the area of policy under Title 11 and the area of personnel. We've always known that personnel is handled by the Human Resources Department, as well as at times the Personnel Board actually gives advice to policy or change of policy within the personnel policies of the Seminole Nation. S&GE, I think, is warranted.
Call for the question. I want to vote.
Restate your motion, Representative
Then we
Shaw.
extend this meeting into other business. Bottom line,
Other business, and then a code says that when
you're just dragging this out. Either say yes or no.
I'm just in Title 16, if we go to other business, you state the order of the business to be
I
addressed.
did. You asked me, I gave it to you. Now, what else? What more do you want, Louis? I know you don't want to stand up, have to get rid of somebody, but we
Point of
have
order.
very serious problems here in this nation, whether you want to know it or not. You can turn your back and walk away if you want to. I cannot. I represent the people of the Seminole Nation, and I think that everybody sitting here are the same way that are sitting here tonight to represent the Seminole Nation, not turn our backs on our people. Very serious nature to me.
I think the Seminole Nation Gaming Enterprise is, like I said, is not necessarily a personal issue. It's someone that sets by appointment here on this board, and appointed and confirmed by this council, which is not necessarily a personnel issue, but a council issue.
Okay, that's one of them. I don't know how many of y'all have not received a resignation from our gaming, enterprise board member.
I don't see anyone raising their hands. If you look on the portal, there it is.
So they know about that.
It's on the portal.
That's very important.
Yes, it is. It is on the portal.
Something else that came to me today from an HPO officer from another nation, that the bones of my people, mine, Siwasli, the bones of Puss Hutchie and our relics down there were not claimed by the Seminole Nation. I want to know why. Why are we not claiming these? When I was down there before, our HPO representative tried to give away Osceola's ear bobs and things like this to the Florida Seminoles without asking this nation what to do with those first. Now, that's another important issue to me. I don't know if it.
We can place it on the agenda. We have a meeting coming up on the 22nd.
I don't want it on the agenda. I want it tonight. We've got to do something. This tribe being run by a few people, and I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to stand straight up and tell you, I think you're assisting them.
Representative Shaw, I realize that we're halfway into this term, and there's no one that knows politics better than your chairman at this time. So I know what's happening in this nation at this time. So don't think that's any secret.
Then why are you allowing it?
No, that's not what the case is, okay? All right. There is a motion. Did I hear a second for
There's a second
S&GE?
right here.
Second. And we will not hear personnel issues. We let the code govern that. But this is for S&GE. Because the other two are out of order. If you choose to attach this, the other two, it's still out of order.
I don't think so, because that brings us into that other that you're talking about. You know about the tax issues. You're not going to, you're sitting there, you said you knew. I'm telling you, you know about the tax issues that are going on.
I do know about the tax issues
Well,
that are
if
going
we
on
do
and
know
what we're
about it,
doing
I
at the
think this
nation.
council and the people of the Seminole Nation should be allowed to know what's going on themselves, rather than just a select few or those that went up there and actually asked those questions. We asked questions and got those answers, but all we got was, oh, I'm going to resign I'm resigning right now. Then no, then as this meeting's over, I'm going to resign. Then we get a piece of paper 2 days later said, I'm resigning the 23rd. On the 22nd, I can rescind that resignation.
Point of order there was called, and I
Well,
do believe.
you're asking questions, I'm trying to answer them as best I can. I'm not as educated in the words that you are, but I'm telling you like it is.
Representative Shaw, do you want to put S&G at the end of the agenda on other business? We're not going to talk about the personnel issues. We're going to let the tribal code take care of that, and we will note your concerns.
I'm asking for the vote. I've got a motion on the floor and a second. I'm going to ask for the vote. I'm calling the question, in other words. You cannot invade that anymore. You can ask the Attorney General or the acting Attorney General over there if
Well,
I'm correct or if I'm not
In this
correct.
motion, are you going to clearly violate Title 11 and hand?
We've been clearly violating a lot
No,
of
I'm
things.
asking, are you going to do that tonight?
If we have to, yes, sir. And the rest of them are afraid, I'm sorry. I'm not.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Secretary, call the roll.
Leetta Sampson,
Yes.
Anthony Conley,
Yes.
John Narkemy,
No.
Rena Tiger, Anastasia Pittman,
Yes.
Terry Edwards, Ida Gonzalez,
No.
Nancy Fixico, Tamara Downey, Leon Petit,
Yes.
Joseph Billy, Dolores Harjo,
Yes, what happened?
Karen Fulbright,
No.
Ann Borba,
No.
Stephanie Lambert,
No.
Sina Yeslith,
No.
Lottie Cootie, Marilyn Moore, Ensign Lena,
No.
David Frank,
No.
Tiffany Thunder,
Yes.
Wayne Shaw,
Yes.
Catherine McCoy,
Yes.
Charlie Hill,
Yes.
Tommy Chupko, Danita Harjo,
No.
Willis Dethridge, Desiree Emerton. I have 11 yeses, 12 noes, 0 abstain.
With a count of 11 yes and 12 noes, I declare that motion to have failed. Now we are back into new business. We are on TR 2023, which is marked at 42 on your agenda, but for the sake of keeping chronological order on tribal resolutions, that's going to be Tribal Resolution 40, and that would be the resolution on Judge Wantland. Okay, it'll be TR 2023-40. And then the audit will be TR 2023-41. And those will be the two items on the agenda tonight. So it'll be TR 2023-40, which is the Honorable William Watland, the resolution of the honors of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma General Council, formally naming the General Council House and Tribal Courts Building in honor of the Honorable William Watland. I entertain a motion to that effect.
Make a motion.
Motion by Karen Fulbright, it's seconded by Representative Dethridge. No discussion? Representative McCoy?
Why aren't we considering naming the council house after a former council person? Was that taken into consideration?
Yeah, I believe it was taken in consideration. Of course, that is our
And
court.
we had nobody that we,
It's our courthouse as well. It's the site of the first Supreme Court of the Seminole Nation, which Judge Watland, if you'll read the resume, was actually the first Supreme Court Justice of the Seminole Nation. He ran our CFR courts for a period of time.
it says he's a citizen of Seminole Nation and not a member. Can you explain the difference there, please?
He's a member of the Tuskegee Harjo band.
But if he's a member, shouldn't he be a member of the Seminole Nation then? If he's a member of that band?
He's a member of the Seminole Nation. He is a citizen of the Seminole Nation. You are a member of the Seminole Nation as well as a citizen.
Well,
of the
we have
Seminole Nation.
differences. We have members and we have citizens. That's why I'm asking the question, just for clarification purposes.
And that is the clarification. Representative Shaw.
I'm going completely different on this. You got it down here that he's a member of the Seminole Nation. But does he have a CDIB? Is Seminole by blood? That's one. And you say he's a member of the Tuskegee Harjo band. I remember the day that he was inducted to the Tuskegee Harjo band as an honorary member. It does not say that he's an honorary member. He is not even a member of our nation. Now, don't think I'm mad at him, and I like Bill and everything, but the thing is, some of this is fabricated. And I want to let you know that he is not a tribal member per se. He is an honorary tribal member by a band. That means I could go out here and pick somebody up off the street, make them honorary member of the Seminole Nation, put them in my band. And they would. Now, the other question I've been asked, is he receiving benefits from our nation? Does he receive any benefits from our nation?
I don't believe that Judge Watland receives benefits from the
Well,
Seminole
who
Nation.
can?
You yield the floor, Representative Shaw.
I'll let Mr. Dethridge answer that.
Representative Dethridge. I think the mic is not on. Until the red switch comes on, then it'll be on. If it's not working, take him a hand mic. Thank you.
I spoke with our band chief, Rodney Factor, about this situation, and it's my understanding, and we can ask our band chief to expound on this, but Judge Watland is not an honorary member. He is an adopted member of the Tuskegee Harjo band. He votes at our band. I don't know whether he votes at general elections or whatever, but I know that he votes at our band. And if you need more clarification, we can ask our band chief.
According to Title 16, Representative Dethridge, a band can ask a person to be able to speak on the council floor. Is that what you're asking of the chairman at this time?
If further clarification needs to be.
Just saying, according to Title 16, I'm just making it clear.
Yes.
That's what you're asking.
Yes, it is.
And that is the proper process according to the code of law. So is there any objection to a member of the Tsikina Harjo band to speak at this time, which is actually their band chief, and he's the chairman of the band chiefs as well? Any objections?
Chair, I guess only if there's needs clarification. Nobody said they needed clarification or anything.
Okay, where we're at right now, if there's no objection to allowing the band chief of the Tsikina Harjo band to speak, then we're going to allow him to enter the council floor at this time. No objection? Okay. And Chief, yeah, just give him that mic. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, I had that same opinion that Wayne had at one time, that I always understood that Mr. Watland was an honorary member of our band, and he would come to our meetings, and he had been gone for some time, and he came back to a meeting, and we were voting on something, and he raised his hand to vote, and I challenged his vote. You know, I said, Mr. Watland, you know, you can't vote as an honorary member. And he said, oh, no, I'm a member. I'm legally adopted. And, you know, he didn't vote, but he sent me some paperwork afterwards and the history behind that. And he was actually adopted by the general counsel. And it was recognized by the BIA in Muskogee that he was adopted. And after he had been adopted by the council, then it was presented to my band that he be adopted into a band, and they also adopted him. And he can vote, but he's not allowed to receive any annuities or anything like that. It wasn't only him, his wife, and he had a couple of kids too that were adopted at the same time. And those were the same provisions that they were allowed to vote, but they couldn't receive any annuities. So he's an adopted member, you know, and that's a historical thing, because this nation has, I know of two occasions, I think, in history that they actually adopted someone, the general counsel, and him and his families, those are the third ones that this nation's adopted that I've read, you know, throughout our history. So yes, he's a member of the Seminole Nation.
Band Chief Factor, we appreciate the explanation. And I would suggest very strongly that when you make statements on this council floor, that you have your information correct, instead of making certain comments that is not substantiated. Actually, without due respect, you cannot speak unless your band asks you to speak.
Don't ask.
Do you yield the floor?
Chair.
Yes, I yield the floor. I have that documentation, you know, I know where it's at, so what I got through telling you, that documentation, back it up.
Representative from the Ochese band, Frank?
Chair, we'd like a member of our band, Ella Coleman, to be permitted to speak, former Assistant Chief Ella Coleman.
Okay, there's a request from the Ochese band that a member of their band also speak, which is in conjunction with the rules in Title 16. So if there's an objection for Ms. Coleman to speak, then you can make it now. Representative McCoy?
I object.
There's an objection. Do you make that in a form of a motion, Representative Frakes?
Yes, sir.
And that motion is that Ms. Ella Coleman can enter the council floor and speak.
That is correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Borba. That will go to a vote. And to be clear, this is a motion to allow a member of the Ocheesee Band to speak on the council floor, and it was made by the Ocheesee Band, Representative Franks, and second by Representative Borba. Secretary, call the roll.
Leetta Sampson,
Yes.
Anthony Conley,
Yes.
John Narkemy,
Yes.
Rena Tiger, Anastasia Pittman,
Yes.
Terry Edwards, Ida Gonzalez,
Yes.
Nancy Fixico, Tamara Downey, Leon Petit,
Yes.
Joseph Billy, Dolores Harjo,
Yes.
Karen Fulbright,
Yes.
Ann Borba,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Sina Yeslith,
Yes.
Lottie Cootie, Marilyn Moore, Henson Lena,
Yes.
David Frank,
Yes.
Tiffany Thunder,
Yes.
Wayne Shaw,
Yes.
Catherine McCoy,
No.
Charlie Hill,
No.
Tommy Chupko, Danita Harjo,
Yes.
Willis Dethridge,
Yes.
Desiree Emerton.
Yes.
I have 20 yeses, 3 noes, 0 abstain.
With a count of 20 yes, 3 noes, and 0 abstentions, I declare that the motion to allow Ms. Ella Coleman of the Ocheesee Band to enter the council floor and to speak before the Honorable General Council of the Seminole Nation. I hear it. I heard it.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chief, Honorable Representatives. Thank you, Representative Frank. I just wanted to thank Band Chief, Mr. Factor, for his statement. I just wanted to confirm that Thomas Coker family had adopted William Charles Watland on or about 1967 into the family, the Coker family, at a Coker family reunion. I had that confirmed by a family member as well. So I just wanted to give you all additional information about this adoption. And again, thank you, Chief Factor and Chief Johnson, for allowing me to speak, and honorable council reps.
Yeah, you're welcome, and that's true, that paperwork does say that about Thomas Coker, and the council, the reason that they did it is when it was presented to them, of course, there was a lot of legal challenges that the nation was facing at that time, and Mr. Watland was an attorney, and so he was close to Thomas Coker, and they were turning to him for advice in different areas, in those areas, and so they felt that it was beneficial to the nation to go ahead and adopt him, and that's what they did. And like I said, I have that paperwork. It's a historical thing, and I want to take it to records management so that they can have a copy of that. And you know, you feel free to ask them, you know, as counsel, and I'm sure that they would, you know, make a copy for you. Mado.
Thank you, Mr. Factor. Just for clarification, as far as passage by the General Council of 1973, that resolution that was stated here on this floor by Band Chief Factor actually was Resolution 1973-10, 1973-10. So once again, if you're going to bring something to the council floor as if it's the gospel truth, please have your information correct. Representative Shaw.
Again, I'm not doubting that he wasn't adopted by the band, not saying that. But the question I would ask, is he receiving amenities from the nation?
I think that was answered by,
And I don't think anybody can answer that except our treasurer or somebody in this AARP money or whatever it's called.
no.
You're shaking your head no, but do the people know that? Those are the questions they're asking me. I can't answer them, so I'm asking you. And I got clarification. I knew that from Rodney. Rodney and I have talked many times on this subject. But the thing is,
I don't see,
the other thing is, I've got adopted children that cannot participate in this nation. I adopted them.
Point of order, Chair.
yes,
This is not-
but the
That's not a point
council,
where you ask a question, I'm asking you
but the
to.
council has not. We have a tribal resolution that also verifies what has been said and what was the argument or the debate that was brought forth to this council floor about that. We're back at the original, motion, PR 2023-40, because we're keeping this thing in chronological order as far as tribal resolution. So this is a resolution of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma General Council formally naming the General Council House in the Tribal Courts Building in honor of the Honorable William Wantland. And Secretary, go ahead and call the roll.
Leetta Simpson,
No.
Anthony Conley,
No.
John Narkemy,
Yes.
Rena Tiger, Anastasia Pittman,
Yes.
Terry Edwards, Ida Gonzalez,
Yes.
Nancy Fixico,
Yes.
Tamara Downey, Leon Petit,
No.
Joseph Billy,
No.
Dolores Harjo, Karen Fulbright,
Yes.
Ann Borba,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Sina Yeslith,
Yes.
Lottie Cootie, Marilyn Moore, Ensign Lena,
Yes.
David Frank,
Yes.
Tiffany Thunder,
No.
Wayne Shaw,
No.
Catherine McCoy,
No.
Charlie Hill,
No.
Tommy Chupko, Danita Harjo,
No.
Willis Dethridge,
Yes.
Desiree Emberton.
Yes.
I have 12 yeses, 11 noes, 0 abstain.
With a count of 12 yes, 11 noes, and 0 abstentions, I declare that resolution to have passed. TR 2023-41, remember, because of the chronological order of resolutions, 43 has been changed to 41. So this is a tribal finance committee.
Yes. Mr. Chairman,
This is introduced by the finance committee.
yes. We'd like to introduce TR 2023-41, the tribal resolution of the General Council of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, acknowledging the review of the final 2022 Seminole Nation Annual Audit Report and its submission to the governmental agencies. Move adoption.
There's a motion on the floor for approval, but in a second, and without hearing the report from the auditor, you want to hold until we go to the vote. Is that a consensus of the council? to hear the report.
If they want to hear a report, brief report from the auditor, we have no objections to that.
Okay, we're in discussion. Okay, that's where we're at. We got a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Representative from Rose Rock, if you would, go ahead and approach the council floor. Chief Palmer, I'll give you a microphone.
Borrow your table to sit still. Ryan Harris. I'm Ryan Harris from Rose Rock CPAs. We audited the financial statements of the governmental activities, general fund, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma Governmental Services Department as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2022. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the department. Some items of note, we noted the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. The department was able to increase funding provided through its many programs from approximately $26 million in 2021 to approximately $54 million in 2022. This increase was mainly the utilization of the ARPA funds through aid and capital projects. Of note, though, overall net position of the department decreased by approximately $4.5 million, mainly due to poor performance of the investments held within the trust fund. During the period, the department adopted GASB 87 as it relates to leases. This resulted in a right-of-use asset as well as a lease liability being recorded. We noted no transactions entered into by the department during the period or during the year for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance. Professional standards require us to accumulate all known and likely misstatements identified during the audit, other than those that are clearly trivial, and communicate them to management. Those adjustments were provided. We are pleased to report no disagreements arose during the course of our audit. As for the Uniform Guidance Report, as mentioned earlier, approximately $54 million in federal funding was utilized during the fiscal year. Also, as noted, the independent auditor's report on the financial statements expressed an unmodified opinion. One material weakness was reported in the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. That was finding 2022-001. There were no instances of non-compliance material to the financial statements of the department were disclosed during the audit. No material, and as far as federal awards were concerned, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance with the requirements applicable to major federal programs were identified in the independent auditor's report on the internal control over compliance. The independent auditor's report on compliance for the major federal awards programs expressed an unmodified opinion. The audit disclosed no findings required to be reported by uniform guidance. During the period, we tested 4 of the programs that the department has as major. Those were the law enforcement, federal ALN number 15-03 or .030, the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds 21.027, also known as ARPA, the Indian Self-Determination Fund 93.441, Head Start and Early Head Start 93.600. A threshold of $1,635,398 was used to distinguish between Type A and Type B programs, as the terms are defined under uniform guidance. For the year ended September 30th, 2022, the department did not qualify as a low-risk auditee as described by uniform guidance. Now on to the finding. The findings conditions were, during the audit, amounts were identified that were not properly stated in accordance with GAAP. Material entries were made to the following accounts: cash, as it relates to reconciling items contained within suspense accounts; grants receivable, which referred to particular closing entries; prepaid expenses were, as it relates to an overstatement in relation to the right-of-use asset and the GASB 87 implementation; fixed assets, as it relates to the right-of-use asset and GASB 87 implementation; lease liability, as it relates to the right-of-use asset and GASB 87 implementation; deferred revenues related to closing entries; due to, due froms, as it relates to enterprise funds; grants receivable, or grant revenue as it relates to closing entries, and transfers as it relates to enterprise funds. We recommend the department management consider designating an individual or team responsibility for coordinating the end-of-year financial statement review and audit planning meetings for the department. Further, we recommend the designated individual or team collaborate with the accounting department to ensure that all items necessary for the financial statements audit are available. That's effectively the big overview of the financial statements. Were there any questions over the council's review of the financial statements? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to refer you to page 20. on your
20?
report. Yeah. Paragraph 3.
You're talking about the actual audit report, correct?
Yes.
20. Okay.
Okay. I guess next to the last sentence, or, yeah, it's a pretty long sentence. It says, as of September 30th, 2022, approximately 61 million of the department's bank balances and certificates of deposit was uninsured and uncollateralized.
Yes.
And of that, approximately 52 million are funding provided by the ARPA program. The difference of $9 million, where would that money be from? Do y'all have a record?
There can be some other funds that are non-federal in nature that you're not always going to have all fully collateralized funds, especially when you have most federal funds, though, are required to be collateralized. ARPA is not that way they don't have a cash management issue, but we would be remiss not to disclose when funds are not collateralized because there is associated risk there. And so we just note that in the disclosures that there is a situation where you do have funds that exceed the FDIC limits of $250,000 and that pledging has not been posted by the bank in order to collateralize those funds. There does need to be an update to your version of it. The funds that are held at Security State Bank, I believe, it's not 52 million, it's 27 million. After having the discussion with the Finance Committee last night, that note actually needs to be updated to 27 million instead of 52. But there is some other non-collateralization there also.
So you're saying we currently have 27 million at Security State Bank?
Security State Bank has 27 million as of 9/30. Now this is, you have to remember, this is not as of today. This was as of the audit date as of 9/30/2022. So that's the date that we're reporting on. At that time, there was a certain amount of uncollateralization. Those funds have continued to be spent, and there has not been a bank failure that has affected it. That's what would cause an issue, is if the actual bank holding those funds were to collapse. And we've seen a couple of those, but like I said, we would be remiss not to let the council know that there is risk in having funds at a bank without collateralizing them. And so that risk is small, but it's still one of those items that we have to bring up. So.
And the next to the last paragraph on that same page speaks about the department has 32,581,200
Yes.
investments. Okay, now that's with the BIA.
Correct. Those are funds that are held at BIA.
And of that, I don't want to get you into the definitions, but if you would explain to this council the difference between par value and fair value.
Okay, so at BIA, most of those funds are in what are considered extremely conservative investments. In that case, a lot of them, and you can look at page 21 and see the actual bonds that are held in BIA. The issue is, and the reason there was such a loss, that loss is only on paper. Those bonds, when they mature, you get the full amount that was invested in those bonds back. The issue is they're not worth nearly as much today because when we signed up for those bonds, we were getting like 1.5% or so. As you can tell, bank percentages have gone up over the last several years. That's caused those bonds to not be worth nearly as much. So if you were to try to get rid of those bonds today and invest in something higher, you would have to sell those bonds at a discount. And so you have to recognize during that period, an unrealized loss on those. And that'll slowly get chipped away as you get closer to maturity date. The only issue is they're kind of tied up in a low yield bond when you could be getting much better interest rates on bonds that are currently out right now, maybe 4 or 5%, something like that, whereas these are stuck at 1.5%.
Thank you. How do you?
Thank you, Representative Petit. Just for clarification, on the last audit, you looked at the same uncollateralized federal funds. When this administration first came into office, there was $95 million that was sitting in one account, one bank, and we took the effort to secure and protect the nation's interests. So it would logically say that during that transition of fully collateralized funds at the current time, there would be a period of time where there wasn't, because you had $95 million wasn't. So we moved to protect the interests of this nation, and we are at this time doing that. Representative Petit.
I believe I brought that to the attention of this council in our inauguration about having our funds collateralized. And the subsequent, I think this is our third audit that we've had to review. You know, the number had increased from the first one that we did, which was the previous administration. I believe the second one may have been under the current administration. It looks like we're starting to make some gradual progress, start getting that collateralized. To that, I would say that this council needs to adopt some type of investment policy, which is noted that we do not have one within our audit here stated. I think it's on one of the following pages, or that might be that same page. I'd have to look back to see. But I just think that's something this council needs to look to do. Protect, you know, our members' monies.
Mr. Harris, you said the terminology to be used on these non-collateralized funds is not necessarily a finding, but a concern.
So in this
Obviously,
situation, in most situations, federal funds are required to be collateralized. On the ARPA, when they issue their the items that need to be tested for compliance, like the compliance sections, there's always like allowable costs and things like that. Cash management is not one of the items under ARPA, and so the argument has been that these do not. There's not a finding associated with these not being collateralized. And so the way that we have presented this as a management recommendation, it's not a finding. It does not get uploaded to the clearinghouse. This does not hold one of our finding numbers at all. This is more of just letting the council know that there is risk associated with this, because these funds carry along with it a liability until they're spent within the program. And that liability, should something happen to the bank and that money were to be lost, that liability would fall on the nation.
Thank you for that response. And just for a clarification, 100% collateralized at this moment that we said. Representative Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ryan, for being here.
My pleasure.
Would you, just for informational purposes, share with the council, we had a discussion about the U.S. Treasury and the overnighters and the $4 million that was just sitting.
Yeah, so
that we expressed a concern about.
Yeah, this is one of the things that the Finance Committee and I talked about, and something that could use some attention as far as the investments that are at BIA. So a lot of times when you're looking at this particular statement, you'll notice at the top that there's something up there called the U.S. Treasury overnighters. And effectively, that's like a money market account. It earns very, very low interest. And those amounts there need attention, and that they should be reinvested in other, in this situation, much higher yield bonds likely. And so that would help offset some of the losses of the ones that have the lower interest rates. And so what's happened is previous bonds have matured. You receive those monies back. They're currently sitting in U.S. Treasury overnighters, waiting to be a new investment to be chosen for them. There's currently $4 million sitting there. It's effectively earning you nothing right now. And so that $4 million needs to find a home in one of these higher yield bonds that likely are carrying a much higher interest rate than what you got even 2 or 3 years ago. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
just wanted to bring the attention to those investments that were underperforming so that if we had recommendations from the council back to the chief.
I would say that is honestly the easiest thing you can do to try to take advantage of the interest rates that everybody's seeing at the banks right now. Is that $4 million that's sitting there, invest those into a bond that has a much higher yield.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to the original motion, and remember that for the purpose of keeping things in order, this is TR 2023-41, which is a tribal resolution of the General Council of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma acknowledging the review of the final 2022 Seminole Nation Annual Audit Report and its submission to the governmental agencies, which is basically the clearinghouse. Representative Shaw.
Before we get off the subject, I've been on this council a day or two, and it always comes down to last minute. You got to pass it or else, pass it or else. I thought we had a resolution or ordinance on the books that said that our audits would be seen prior to this in a certain amount of time. We're not getting that. You know, next year, I don't get June 31st or whatever it is.
30th.
It's going to come around for the next audit. You know that. Then how come we can't get these findings to this council so we can look at them? I may not be able to add two, but I got band members that do. They're always asking me. I haven't seen the audits yet. I've got a PDF that I can't download because my computer won't let me. But the thing is, why can't we get these audits prior to I'm going to ask the, what do you call this, Finance Committee? How long have it been since y'all saw it? How long ago did y'all get it?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Thank you. That is one of the concerns the Finance Committee did address because we wanted the audits. We wanted the reports. I think we have fiduciary duty to review these audits and the actual proposed budgets every quarter. We have not been able to do that. So as we received it on this occasion, we know that there are some concerns, but at this point, there are no changes that can be made to this audit from the past year. So at this point, this resolution is not submitted because we have the opportunity to change it. If we don't, we have to submit it by a certain date. So what the recommendation was from the Finance Committee is that we recommended that we do look at our CPAs and how they collaborate with Red Rock and how they work together, and that we have some expectations moving forward so that we're not in this position again next year. So we submitted some recommendations and we voted on those as well. Thank you.
You still didn't answer me. How long has the Finance Committee had to look at it? Yeah. 2 days?
We got it at noon
Don't you think that's a little bit
on
short?
Wednesday. We received this audit. We wanted the audit on Monday or prior to our Finance Committee meeting. We did not have the audit available to us on Tuesday. We spent from 1:30 to 8:30 on the Finance Committee all day going through the entire budget. And we did not have the audit report. So we made the recommendation that we needed to receive it by noon the following day. And it was emailed out and put on the portal prior to noon on Wednesday.
What I'm going to have to do is backpedal a little bit on that, I guess. Do we not have an ordinance or a resolution on board that says that our audits will be presented to our Finance Committee and to the council prior to a council meeting? How many of you have actually seen the audit report? Wow, pass them in the dark, 2 of y'all. But, you know, we're not special, so we don't know. Rest of us
If
are not
you,
special.
if you'll get
anything.
access to the portal, you can see it. It's
Yeah,
there.
But the thing, isn't there an ordinance or something like that to that effect? If those people can't get in their audit reports to our auditors on time and our auditors get them done,
Point of order, Chair. Question's been asked and answered.
no. I've asked some legitimate questions. What's taking so long for?
I think historically it has happened in the past. There were some times in the past, even in the past administrations, council did not see it at all. And the thing of it is this, we called the meeting according to tribal law. And you bet, we try to adhere to that. At times, just like this time, the audit came when it came. And you start earlier. I suppose that would be the best answer, to start earlier, make sure that.
The audit comes because you pay these people to audit you, and they can do it tomorrow if you wanted them to. We pay these people to do that. These people.
I don't think
auditors-
they could do it tomorrow for next year's audit, just quite yet.
So-
But we will start earlier. I mean, that has been determined by the
So-
Finance Committee.
Because you're always quoting laws and everything else that spouting them out at me. So now if we've got a law, then we need to get back into that groove and do that, because I do want the people to at least look at it. At least I want to look at it even if I can't read it. And I think that everybody ought to have that opportunity, and we're not getting it, especially tonight. I know it's got to go through, and I know what penalties are arranged out there. I know all that. But until it passes tonight,
We will not be under sanctions. We will not be under restrictions by federal agencies as we was a few years ago. And we was on a percentage breakdown by every quarter. That will not happen. So I want to say this to the staff. They tried very hard. They worked long, very hours. And sometimes that happens if you don't get the information that is needed to the external auditor, or if you get the information to the external auditor, you know, that's not rectified, you know,
How come
through the
you can't correct them?
processes.
Tell
I
your
realize that
directors
as
to do
well. Okay, we're back to the original question, and unless you have Representative Borba.
Yes, I'd just like to say I'm glad our audits are done. There has been times historically when we were behind several years, if I'm not mistaken. So we are beating the deadline. We may barely be beating it, but we are beating it. So thank you for your hard work.
Representative Fulbright.
And the audits are what they are. I mean, it is what it is. All we need to do is vote that, we've seen them, they're gone through. And if you haven't seen them, you knew this meeting was going to be tonight on audits, and just get with your general counsel secretary and say, hey, I need a copy of the audits because we got a meeting coming up. We have a responsibility here as council also to do our work, to take care of things. And we all expect it just to be handed to us, and we don't have to do a thing. We got a job to get these audits and share with your people. We knew it was coming, and it is what it is. And I call for a question.
Okay, well, this is TR 2023-40, and I want to state this, that it's -40 based on the chronological order for resolutions to be in order under the code. 41, Chair stands corrected, TR 2023-41. Secretary? What we're going to try to do, we can, Representative Petit, we was in discussion, questions have been called for.
Can I object to the call of the question? Because we may still have some other questions to be addressed. I think that's in our codes there that we can call for a vote.
And also in the Code of Laws in Title 16, we have been given courtesy to this council, and I always will give courtesy to this tribal council. You speak twice on a subject matter, and then we may even have to start using that time clock. Mr. Palmer can utilize it. On the audit, it is a little different, I think, because it is the audit. And on some of the other areas that, there's long discussion, there are time limits and how many times a council representative can speak and what they're limited to the second time they speak. You can look up the codes if you want to check that out. But Representative Petit, you have the floor.
Chair, I just want to make a statement that, I know this seems like we got these kind of rushed, to us in order to review them prior to this meeting. But, I mean, it's what you would call a housekeeping item. I think we should learn from these audits things that we need to address as a council so that we can protect the nation's monies in the future. And that's all I want to say is we need to each learn from the things that are found within the audit and address these things. And previously, I wanted to apologize to him because I asked him for suggestions. That's not his job. His job is to present the audit. And I think I had said that to him in one of the prior meetings, but that's what we should use these for. They're a tool for us to learn. Thank you.
I do want to say anything that was found, considered, a concern, those things have been corrected, and they will continue to, we believe, run as smoothly as possibly can be. We obviously, any leader, yourself included, would like 100% here or there. Yes, does it bother me? Yes, it does bother me. I expect certain standard, and I know you do too as elected officials. All right, Secretary, call the roll. Thank you, Mr.
Leanna
Harris.
Sampson?
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
No.
Anthony Conley?
No.
John Narkemy?
Yes.
Rena Tiger? Anastasia Pittman?
Yes.
Ida Gonzalez?
Yes.
Nancy Fixico?
Yes.
Leon Petit?
Yes.
Joseph Billy?
No.
Dolores Harjo?
No.
Karen Forbright?
Yes.
Ann Borba?
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert?
Yes.
Sina Yeslith?
Yes.
Lottie Cootie? Ensign Lena?
Yes.
David Frank?
Yes.
Tiffany Thunder?
Yes, under duress.
Wayne Shaw?
Same way, under duress, Joyce McVan votes yes, but I want that as a matter of record.
Catherine McCoy?
No.
Charlie Hill?
No.
Danita Harjo?
No.
Willis Dethridge?
Yes.
Desiree Emerton?
Yes.
I have 15 yeses, 8 noes,
0 abstentions.
0 abstentions.
Okay, with 15 yes, 8 no, and 0 abstentions, I declare TR 2023-41 to have passed. An announcement, there was a monumental decision made yesterday. Some of you have heard it. It's close to being equal with what McGirt was passed, back in 2020. It's called Hooper versus the city of Tulsa. Band chief requested that maybe just, announcement by the, in a nutshell brief, that the Attorney General, briefly shares with the council what that means. Are there any objections to this, to what that actually means? and it is a victory for Indian country. Is there any objections? No objections? Attorney General, you have the floor for this brief announcement.
I will use a mic. Big difference. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Tori Holland and I'm representing Val today. Val asked me to come because she has other things going on right now and she apologizes that she is not here. But as to the Hooper case, so the Hooper case concerned someone who was Native American who got a ticket from the city of Tulsa. And the city of Tulsa said that the Curtis Act gave them jurisdiction over anyone regardless of race. So this went all the way up to the 10th Circuit, and the 10th Circuit said that even though the Curtis Act has not been repealed, the plain text of Section 14 did not give Tulsa jurisdiction because the plain text of Section 14 said municipalities incorporated under the state of Arkansas using Mansfield Digest. Since Oklahoma became a state, all the municipalities in Oklahoma are incorporated under Oklahoma law. So the Curtis Act does not grant municipalities criminal jurisdiction over Indians. And I realize that the Curtis Act does not apply to the Seminole Nation, but we did join an amicus brief because we've had municipalities attempt to use the same argument against us. Do you guys have any questions?
Representative Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Holly, for being here. One of the questions I have is, at what point, once the decision was made that they did not have jurisdiction, what's the period for implementation moving forward? If someone now gets a ticket in that jurisdiction, are they going to leave it up to light horsemen or regular police officers? Or how do we govern ourselves from this point forward?
So it depends on the jurisdiction. So for Seminole County, we have a great working relationship, and all of the state officers send all of the Indian tickets to us and we prosecute them. So there's no gap in jurisdiction there. But for other reservations, they don't have that same type of relationship. So some jurisdictions are prosecuting the individual regardless of race, political classification, because being tribal members is a political classification. And they're leaving it up to the tribal member to assert that the state lacks jurisdiction. Some of them will forward that to the tribe for prosecution, and others will not.
Would you expound on municipalities? Because I think that's of great concern.
So under the Curtis Act, it specifically discussed municipalities, not counties. And keep in mind that the Curtis Act was passed, I want to say like 7 years before statehood. And so the Curtis Act incorporated Arkansas law via the Mansfield Digest to Indian territory, and everything criminally wise was heard in the federal court system. Since Oklahoma became a state, Congress did not extend the powers of the Curtis Act to the state of Oklahoma. So every municipality and every county in Oklahoma is now organized pursuant to the laws of the state of Oklahoma. And the state lacks jurisdiction on Indians in Indian country.
Representative Franks.
Does it make a difference if your tribe has a cross-deputization agreement with that local municipality or not?
So the cross-deputization agreements just give law enforcement officers separate hats. So let's say Light Horse makes contact with an individual on a traffic violation. They don't have jurisdiction to prosecute them if they are a non-Indian because they are tribal police. If they are cross-stepped, they just switch their hat. I'm now writing you a ticket as insert whatever municipality or county that this is. So you are now subjected to the state jurisdiction. Likewise, if it's an Indian that is made contact with on a traffic violation by a state officer, if they are not cross-deputized, they do not have jurisdiction, they do not have jurisdiction to write tickets to Indians under their state hat. So if you don't have that crossed up, you can't put that hat on, you don't have jurisdiction.
I see Representative Shaw.
One of the things we're talking about, I understand that, but, you know, in our case, we're different than the other 5 tribes or 7 tribes. We do not come under the Curtis Act.
That's right.
Nor do we come under the Indian Welfare Act, 1946. We don't come under any of that. But there's people here in town, now, if a city police officer, even though he is cross-deputized, takes me to jail down here or wherever, they don't have a jail in Seminole anymore, I don't think. But anyway, if he took me down there, gave me a ticket, then shouldn't I ask that come out here to the tribal courts?
So procedurally, how this would go is if you are an Indian, regardless of what tribe you're affiliated with, and the state attempts to prosecute you on a criminal matter, you are to raise the defense of subject matter jurisdiction. And that's saying, I'm an Indian, this is.
Talk too long, no. Put your quarterback in there.
We'll see. Okay. Where was I? Oh, okay. So if you're being prosecuted by the state and you're an Indian, it is your job to say, I'm an Indian, this is Indian country, you lack jurisdiction over me. For Seminole County specifically, we have a really great working relationship where they don't really have that gap, because as soon as they see that there's a Native American, they're sending it over to our court. So, but for the other reservations, they don't necessarily have that. So you're having a big gap in prosecutions because you have people who are committing crimes, getting them dismissed, and then no one knows to pick it up.
Well, the reason I'm asking that, I asked this of Valerie when she was here before. And something's happened since that time. There's a young lady from Pontotoc County down here, Native American. She was prosecuted on a murder charge. But once she was prosecuted on a murder charge, it took her to penitentiary. She got out. 2 weeks ago, they came and picked her up, took her back. But she had it on appeal at the time. That appeal went to appeals, Oklahoma Criminal Court of Appeals, who overturned it and told them the state did not have jurisdiction and turned her loose. There are many of those cases that are going on within the county. And
There's a call for a point of order. I believe at the last council meeting when that subject matter was brought up, you were going to speak with the Attorney General on that matter.
it's hard to catch her. I don't want to have to cost the tribe any more money than I have to.
The council understood you were going to speak to the Attorney General on that matter. But if there is a point, I do know what the point, what state your point of order?
Miss Torrey, she was asked to speak on one subject, and she spoke on that subject, clarifying about the Hooper case. So I'll make a motion for adjournment if she's finished.
Is it clear about the Hooper case? I believe that it is. It is a monumental decision. Indian country has won a victory. It doesn't mean that it won't be challenged at the Supreme Court level. If it's in line with the historical response of the state and some of the others, most likely will. But I want to make this statement before that we close in prayer, is that our elders have always believed what Representative Shaw stated. We're not under the Curtis Act. This administration has always stood that, but we're fortunate that the Seminole Nation joined in with the other tribes on this particular case. So we are mentioned in as one of the ones who joined in on this case. And as always, we look at the facts of the matter. We did in Murphy and we did in McGirt. And the facts of the matter is if they make the decision and judgment based on what's proper by Indian country, we know what we're talking about. It may not always go in our favor because it's in the hands of other judges. But if the law is where it's at, we already know that. Many of us already have done the research over the years and years. We know that. We listen to what our elders have said and we honor what they said. I appreciate the attention of the council this evening. Thank you for being here. And Mr. Dethridge, if you would, offer the prayer of dismissal. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we pray, if I may, can I please ask Councilman Dethridge to include our band member, Terry Edwards? He's traveling and he gives his regrets for not being here.
Remember Representative Edwards in your prayer. Thank you very much. Amen.